And we're back. Jon Stewart, Cueball Carmichael. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday night. It is none other than the TruthBusters Live. Coming to you, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Our new website is up. Q, what is the website address? Tell them.
www.tripletradio.com. All one word, tripletradio.com.
Check that out. We're adding content and data and information on literally an hourly basis. Nick London, our producer, has spearheaded a great team that's doing the website. So please check that out. I mean, it's, we do this for you. Also, this is like you and I's like stress relievers. Some people have squeezy balls. They play tennis. This is our stress relief. We always try and talk about some topical things that are going on. Let's spend 5 minutes if you can. Cue the debate. What did you take out of it? What did you feel about it? What do you think about it? Give us your insight.
Well, the greatest line of the night was when he used plagiarism and Joe Biden in the same sentence. It was quite a jab. But, again, I think Mike Pence showed himself to be composed, a good debater. Stayed on topic, but at the same time answered back to Kamala Harris. I thought she got flustered a few times. I couldn't believe how rude she was cutting the vice president off. She said, "I'm the only one on the stage that's ever been a prosecutor." He should have said, "I'm the only one on the stage that's ever going to be a vice president." But I thought that she did lose her composure a few times. In a lot of what the Democrats are doing is trying to take credit for what's already going on, and they try to put Trump on the spot about, pre-existing conditions. He wants pre-existing conditions covered. I'll give you an idea of Obamacare. When that went into effect, my son Zach was working at a menial labor job, but he was on the books. And he wasn't making enough. They didn't offer health insurance. So he, at the end of the year, got a fine of $2,200 for not carrying life insurance or subscribing to Obamacare. That's how great that program was. If you're a menial labor worker and your company doesn't offer it and you didn't buy Obamacare, he got fined $2,200.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. For me, when I'm looking at the insurance thing, and we should talk about this. We're TruthBusters. For 20 years of me running for office, it's been insurance is, this is what I learned when I was running for Congress in 99. I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm just illuminating people out there. If you allow states or people to buy insurance from Maine to California, a guy in Illinois can buy it from a Tennessee Blue Cross Blue Shield provider. It's called eliminating the borders. The competition will drive the premiums into the ground. It's proven. They've got the actuaries. That's why they don't let it happen, because they don't want the premiums driven into the ground. Number two, everyone's insurance, the deductible is $6,000 before it starts kicking in. And after it kicks in, it's 80% of the bill. Well, you're finished. What was it last year, Hugh? The average family has $500 in savings, and you're going to come up with $6,000. You basically, whether you've got insurance or not, you're bankrupt. Yes. Maybe your child will be able to get the brain surgery because you have insurance, but you're finished. I mean, you're freaking finished. Yeah. So the $6,000 deductible, and then it's 80% of the bill. So now you got to pay 20% of all the brain tumor surgeries from your kid. I mean, you're just in 80% of the bankruptcies in America in 2000 were medical bankruptcies. Yeah. So don't get me started on the insurance. I mean, my dad did this with car warranties from our car dealership, and he called it a mutual pool fund, where everybody throws in, to be soft, to make an easy description. Everybody throws in, we'll cover your pre-existing illnesses and stuff. I just don't get it. And Obama comes along, and it's the same damn insurance, and he tells you have to have it. I mean, Russia? I mean,
I mean,
go
yeah,
ahead.
they take the rights. Democrats take the rights out of rights, and what they do is they're socializing health insurance, want to socialize education, and what they don't realize is you might as well be a communist country if you're going to start socializing things. You know, it just takes away the rights and the freedoms of Americans. Look, a healthy 22-year-old man who works a menial labor job and doesn't have insurance through his employer and can't afford to buy it outright gets fined over $2,000.
Crazy.
And listen, I will tell you a fact up. You know, my wife worked for Genworth. She was a financial analyst for them. And when the Trump tax cuts went through, she brought home $100 more every 2 weeks.
Like a
So,
game changer.
20 grand a year, she brought home more. And I brought home about $50 more because I was a cop.
Yeah.
But, you know, when they made the cuts, look, we don't make $400,000 a year. That's a massive lie. Those tax cuts were for the working class people because we got them.
Right.
So, you know, it's the liberal spin. That's what it is.
Yeah. And another thing, Q, which really is, which has really bothered me, and I thought Mike Pence was going to jump right into it. Again, you're hearing it on TruthBusters, this climate change. Now it's not global warming because they realize that that's bullshit. It's climate change. And the weather is weird. The weather is wilder. But here's the TruthBusters, folks. The number of hurricanes that last year have not increased since 1905. It's because we have 24-hour news cycle, which we've talked about on the show, is going to destroy America. You're seeing constantly. You know, 40 years ago, Cueball's grandfather reading a newspaper, a hurricane in the Caribbean, it'd be a little blurb on the bottom of page 6. And now it's hurricane alert. So the truth, no more increase in hurricanes for the past 100 years. Number 2, the man-made carbon fuels ruining the atmosphere. Yes. It did make a bigger hole in the ozone layer. Do you know what they found now with all of the emissions, all of the regulations, which were fine, all of this hairspray going to pumps, no more the Freon, no more chlorofluorocarbons. The ozone layer, the ozone hole has shrunk substantially. Okay, that's myth number 2 we've covered. Number 3, do you know that a volcano erupting puts out 10,000 years of human fluorocarbons that we have, of human emissions that we have done in the past 60 years. So in one volcanic belch, 10,000 years of what we've put out in the last 60. That, you know, this is what is making the planet where it is. Number 4, do you know, Kamala Harris, that all of the planets in the solar system are heating up? Now, does Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, do they have factories and hairspray on them to cause the heating? No, it's called the sun. It's called the sun. Solar maximum, solar minimum. Cueball and I, about a year ago, studied this. We called it the alligator. If you look at the last 400 million years of climate on this earth, it is a perfect alligator teeth, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's been doing it for 400 million years. In the 60s and 70s, we were freezing our ass off. Now, 10 years ago, we were burning our ass off, and now we've got this weird climate that's being caused by the sun's solar minimum, solar maximum. And why Pence didn't hit it with their say, well, Senator Harris, why are all the planets heating up too? Are there factories on Mars and on Venus? Is there human activity on Mars and Venus? I mean, that would have stumped that broad. She would have been, So there's, as far as the climate goes, there's 5 or 6 myths right there that I cannot believe Pence did not bring one of them up. Sorry for ranting.
No, look, Trump has proposed a forestry management system. Having been a volunteer fireman, let me tell you what that means. In the forests in California where the fires burn. Trees live and trees die. Trees get hit by lightning and they fall down. When you have a forest floor covered in dead trees, when you burn wood in your fireplace, you don't burn green wood. You burn seasoned wood. Right. These floors of these forests are covered in fallen trees and limbs.
And why can't we? Can you tell them why we can't clean it up, Q? Who's responsible for telling us we can't?
Well, that's in Trump's plan, forestry management. They're going to go into these forests and they're going to clear out all the dead timber, all the limbs, and all the twigs. And
but
then
who is preventing us from doing that for the past 30 years? The tree
hugger. California.
You don't touch anything.
Yeah. Governor of California. That's who's been stopping us. So, it needs to be a federal act, and then he can't stop us. And look, all it's going to do is burn less, have less fires, consume less homes, and displace less people if they use forestry management. And Trump has been proposing this for a year now. So
it's the same. It's this Republicans hate black people and love slavery. Who freed the slaves? A white guy from Illinois. Republican old men hate the environment. Who started the EPA? Richard frickin' Milhouse Nixon. Did you know that? Do you hear that from Kamala? Do you hear that from Cuomo on CNN? Huffredo? Did you tell everybody that? You effing asshole.
Well,
no, you don't hear that.
A good example of Republican change is Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president in history, and look what he did.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's if you look at the history of Democrats, they have been pro-slavery for over 150 years.
Yep.
And they constantly are. Joe Biden went to a funeral for a former KKK member and said he was his inspiration. Seriously. I mean, anyway, let's go on with tonight's show because we'll go on all night on that.
But I like it. Hey, look. I like the 15 minutes sometimes we use to cover some topics. Look at the climate stuff, information we've given our viewers, the forestry stuff, all the bullshit they're fed. They're getting the truth here. Okay. We are talking tonight about the moon landing, the Apollo missions. Were they hoaxed? Were they faked? Is it in between? Is there gray areas? Like the JFK, we're going to give you myths. We're going to debunk some things, and we're going to leave some questions. We're going to do that right after we pay some bills. This is TruthBusters live Thursday night. Cueball Carmichael, Jon Stewart. Stay with us. And we're back. TruthBusters live Thursday night. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a very heated conversation. Of course, once again, both agreeing on the debates. The Republicans, Democrats. I am a libertarian. Q, I'm kind of sure. I think you're like a right-leaning or you're a conservative, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, which is basically libertarian and a lot of Republicans. So we enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. I'm glad we got topics and information out about climate change, the truth, and the forestry, because half of California is burning to the ground. And by the way, sincerely, on behalf of Nick, our producer, Cueball, and myself, to everyone in California that is suffering with this, honest to God, our prayers go with you. So I did. Yeah.
And all the fighting the fires and everybody.
Unbelievable.
Difficult
Okay.
time.
So probably one of the original conspiracy theories in American history started by a man who wrote technical pamphlets for EG&G, Dynatrend, and Raytheon. Basically claimed we did not go to the moon and that the Apollo missions were faked. Now, he didn't get a lot of traction, and I'm going to give you just a very, very brief history in the beginning until, the Nixon-Watergate scandal happened. And with Vietnam, there was this building of mistrust of the government. And the moon landing conspiracy took off. And we're going to go into it. And, the who's and the whys, debunking some myths, because that's the credibility of this show, like we did with the JFK assassination. You had to know that Lee Harvey Oswald that day walked in with a pole under a paper bag that was, 4 feet long. You need to know that.
Yeah.
So, the United States is in a Cold War with Russia, so on and so forth. JFK, before he dies, announces that we want to send a man to the moon. Nixon picks this up. The funding, almost over $1 billion in 1970s, 60s, 70s. A lot of money, folks. A lot of money. The rockets were horrible in Gemini. We did finally get a man. Alan Shepard circled the Earth, and John Glenn was the first one to orbit the planet. And then we started Apollo. And let's just go right into it. I mean, because we're at 7:22 now, and I don't want to run out of any time because this is I know Q's got some really good stuff as far as Kubrick, and so do I. So the first conspiracy line on the Apollo mission was the flag waving. If there's no atmosphere, if there's vacuum on the moon, there is no atmosphere. That has kind of almost been debunked. They didn't want you have to remember something. Let me give the umbrella here. NASA was all about propaganda, getting the American people behind, keeping that money flowing in, because they knew in a second, if the country got bored, the senators and congressmen would turn off the funding. You have to remember that. So they didn't want a limp flag on this huge, momentous, probably the most historic, important day in the past 2,000 years, I would say, other than the birth of Jesus or the life of Jesus Christ. I could be wrong. That's my opinion. So they installed a springy pole on the top of the flag to keep it stiff, to keep it hanging. And when the flag was turned, it did flap, and people thought, there's air conditioning units inside these movie studios that they're filming this in. So there has been some video of that flag slightly blowing, but they're also talking about, again, we're going to give you the truth, that yes, there is a vacuum in space, but there also is no resistance. So an astronaut walking by or jumping by or something like that, and any kind of disturbance whatsoever could cause a slight alteration. So for 20 years of research, you have to give the flag waving. I'm going to give that 90% of, I don't think that was part of something we could put our conspiracy hat on. Now, however, there's also a video out there of this tool saddlebag, like a bag, the suits are Kevlar nylon bag. And I'm sorry, folks, this was not on a spring. It was hanging from a pole under the lunar lander. And there's a video of this thing just swinging back and forth. Nobody touched it. And now you start to say, wait a minute, if you're going to give credibility to the flag and throw that on the debunking, now you've got a tool saddlebag that's waving in the wind. You can clearly see this on YouTube. That to me is 100% what the F bullshit. So I got the flag at 90. I got the saddlebag at 100%. So
yeah. But you know what bothered me? We're just as bad as the tool bag was that everybody hears about moon dust, right? You heard
right.
People moon, because the moon is basically covered in a massive layer of dust. Right. Yet if you look at the lunar module, there's zero impact crater where it landed. There would have an impact crater.
Okay. So now that we're told that because the gravity is such 1/6 of Earth's gravity, that really the rocket was turned off, 50 feet above the lunar surface. And then there was rock underneath that. So to make the crater, this is what they're telling us, that it's virtually impossible for it to make a crater because it didn't have that massive thrust, even though, and they showed things where the rocket engine does stay on. It does give a little exhaust the last 30 seconds once you shut it off. Okay, we're going to give you that. And it wouldn't make a crater because there's rock right underneath that dust. However, you don't see the rock. You don't see the dust dispersed. And the pads of the lunar module, these golden pads, are pristine. Folks, I mean, come on. You and I have been in dust storms and in fields and in crappy public baseball fields when it's the middle of summer, it hasn't rained in 3 weeks. I mean, you can't take 3 steps with your spikes without them getting full of dust. How could 3 landing pads of gold foil be absolutely non-existent of dust? Do you have any way to explain that?
I have zero way to explain that, because since there's no gravity, an object in motion stays in motion. So as this is coming down, no matter how slow you slow it down, it's still going to land with an impact. Hence the circular gold landing bottoms that they built on there. How those can land on a dust-covered moon, not create a cloud of dust, not get the least bit dirty, and have a zero impact crater? I mean, the module weighed 3,000, 4,000 pounds.
They said it was as big as a small house.
Yeah. So, that's got to leave a crater. I think it was 3 or 4 tons. It has to leave a crater.
I just saw a video that the lunar module that they scrapped, they tore up, was number 15. They said it was, like a tiny, it was like it's almost the size of like a tiny, like a shed. It's huge. It's huge. And there it is. There's our first cue. There is our first teacher. Excuse me. So let's go into my partially of my theory, your theory, that a lot of the things that we're scratching our head were publicity related filming and photography. My question to you, Q, is that to have this beautiful gold, landing pod legs in the lunar module, could there have been a replica in the studio that they took a picture of specifically for publicity purposes?
Rule it out.
Yeah, you can't rule it out because it does. Because the other flip side of that is totally implausible. I mean, Q, I've looked at high res pictures of the landing pads. There is not a spot. Like somebody went over there like a prop master and wiped it down. And I mean, there is just not and I understand there's rock underneath the dust, but I didn't see the rock. And it doesn't jive. And this is what bothers people that are not conspiracy. Cueball and I are not conspiracy guys. We're questioners. We're Mark Twains. We're noticers. And I'm sorry, folks, when a massive 3-ton lunar module lands on dust and the landing pads they look like they were made for a Visa commercial photo shoot. That's how clean they are. That doesn't jive. I'm 53 years old. I mean, it just, I know dust. It just doesn't jive. I'm sorry. And you can, people can explain away, oh, we're crazy. We went to the moon. I'm not saying that we didn't totally not go to the moon. I'm saying, why is there no dust here? Why is there not the blood blown away?
It's kind of like when we did the 6-part series on ancient civilizations, built with great technology. We're not telling aliens build them. We're just raising the question, who built them, and how. And with this is raising the questions of, look, you have to look at both sides of the coin. You have to look at why it doesn't look real and why it does look real, and people can make up their own minds. And that's what TruthBusters is all about.
The third thing, because there's other things, Q, that didn't happen on the moon. The third thing is, and I'm sorry, folks, I'm sorry. I'll fight you to the death. I'll argue you to the death. Go on YouTube, look up astronauts on a puppet string. There is video of a astronaut that fell down. He's trying to get up, and the other astronaut puts his glove on the guy's head, but magically his legs, like a marionette in a 1970s children's show on Sunday morning, his legs come off the ground. He is horizontal. His legs come off the ground and he flips up backwards again, like you would see a marionette on a kid's show in the 70s on Sunday morning. And you can't explain it. Don't tell me about gravity. The guy's back legs flicked up like he was on a string. And there's other instances of that. So right there, what's going on here?
There's a great picture of one of the astronauts. It's a super picture. He's holding a camera, and you got the reflection in his helmet. And if you blow it up, you can clearly see a string on the upper, as you're looking at it, right side of the helmet that looks like it's holding something up. It's
right. And did you see the two? Q? Did you see the image of the two? They're like key rings at a car dealership that go on each side of the top of the backpack. It's not in any blueprints, in any description why those rings are there. Well, Q and I can tell you from wrestling and rigging and knowing stuntmen, that's wire rigging.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a musician or Peter Pan on Broadway would have. And it's not in any description in NASA.
It's like making that walking motion like you're almost floating because you're on a stuntman's harness.
Right.
That same thing.
Folks, go look up astronauts on a string or astronaut puppets. You'll turn off YouTube and be like, bullshit. Something's going on. So thank you for bringing that up, Q, on that one. Another picture in the helmet, you close up, you can see almost what looks like a lighting can with the 4 fins, coming from the visor of the astronaut. And then what was it last year? This guy looked like he had a snow jacket on and pants. He looked like a hippie in the visor of another astronaut. This was on CNN, and because I know, folks, some of our skeptics out there, if it's not on, Rachel Maddow doesn't cover it or Chris Cuomo, it's not true. Well, this was on CNN and MSNBC, clearly showing the reflection in the astronaut's visor of another man dressed like in winter clothes. And people are like, yeah, it was probably, they had it freezing on the sound stage because these astronauts were in these suits that were very hot in the lights. And just like, I've done a million in studio TV interviews. It's freaking freezing. It's like 63 degrees. Yeah. So, if I know I'm going there, and I'm working there for 8 hours, I'm bringing a freaking winter parka myself too.
Yeah, if anybody ever went to the David Letterman show, he used to insist that his set was 58 degrees.
I rest my case.
Freezing cold.
Thank you, Cueball, for bringing that up. 58 degrees. So if you're going to help astronauts for 12 hours a day on a soundstage, and it's 58 degrees, are you wearing a slightly heavy jacket? Of course you're going to. course you're going to. Okay.
John, another interesting photo is there's a photo of the astronauts taking a picture across the moonscape, and you see the Earth in the background. The strange thing about that is there's no clouds because you see the Earth perfectly. Well, in that picture, you should be able to see stars in the sky also. Not one star is visible. Not one. So unless you have cloud cover, stars are visible. And there's not, it's a massive distance picture of the Earth from the moon. Not one star in the sky, not one cloud in the sky.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Earth in the background, there is, again, a whistleblower, or by accident, and we'll talk about NASA's intelligence in a few minutes, a training, and it says Apollo training footage, do not release, do not show the public. And it shows the Earth in the window. They said it's 150,000 miles away from Earth. You can hear like a director or Houston talking into the earpiece, and all of a sudden Neil Armstrong removes the picture of the folks. He removes the picture of the Earth from the window, and it like how did that go? I mean, so they are, and they're in Earth's orbit. They're in space. He removed the folks. Go on YouTube. I'm like, we're like Alex Jones. We don't say anything unless we see it on the news or see a video of it. I mean, what? So they're faking Earth because everyone said that. Let's talk about this: the Van Allen radiation.
Oh, yeah.
People say, can they go through them? Can they not? Van Allen himself said, very dangerous, but there were spots in the belts where you could make it through. They were traveling very fast. I'm going to give that a 50-50 on the Van Allen radiation belts. However, if you go to NASA and go on YouTube or go to NASA, you'll see an astronaut, and he's their public relation guy, and he's telling kids about going back to the moon. What does NASA spokesman 3 years ago tell the children on this little promotional video? Of course, there's a really big problem. It's called the Van Allen radiation belts. Quote, and we still haven't figured out how to get through them safely. Okay, naysayers. Neil deGrasse Tyson, that black astronomer. Your ass is going to be mine in about 10 minutes, by the way. So everybody get ready to Twitter and make it go viral because you'll see. The Van Allen. Well, why is NASA telling kids we haven't figured out how to go? It's on the internet, folks.
Clearly, we must have. We've been to the moon several times. So, but look, John, here's the most telling picture to me.
Tell me.
Okay, I had the pleasure of being on a couple of TV shows. I filmed a pilot for a Dukes of Hazzard style show in the 90s. And all the props were numbered, or all the props were lettered. If you look at the classic picture of a moon rock in the NASA pictures, there's a moon rock with the letter C carved into it, symmetrically perfect. That's how they number props.
No, didn't you hear that? That was a hair on the photography camera. A hair that went into the perfect shape of a C.
They go to the key grip. Hey, Billy, bring me a prop C. It's a rock.
That's correct.
Put it in the picture.
That's correct.
I mean, look. There are certain objects that don't appear naturally in nature. Letters are those. Perfect C.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, my co-host has just told you the letter A, the letter P doesn't appear in nature, nor do 90-degree angles. You know, that big structure off the coast of China, you know, that's like a pyramid with 90-degree angles. Yeah, that mermaids didn't do that. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, they're saying that there was a hair on the camera. I mean, I mean, these guys should be selling used cars at the Stewart family car lot. I swear to God.
Or vacuums door to door or something like that.
Yeah. Let's. The last thing is this is the part I'm calling we're on the moon. Is there's video of them hammering, listen to me, folks, hammering something like a pole in the ground. If you watch the International Space Station, because there's a vacuum, There is no sound in space. Let me repeat that. This is NASA, NASA's website. You can go to aeronautical engineers, astrophysicists. There is no recorded sound in space. Here is a guy on the moon hammering a pole, and you hear thunk, 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 thunk. You know, it's 60, it's 72. You think Cueball's parents or my parents would know, wait a minute, why is there sound? No. But didn't somebody, an astrophysicist, back in 72, 73, say to himself, why am I hearing him? I mean, I'm not going to get off on that. I find that crazy.
Quick question. Tell everybody what NASA stands for.
Never a straight answer.
Bingo.
Okay, we're back on America, back on soil. Are you really ready to give up on NASA? Here we go.
Hey,
okay.
Did you ever see
Go ahead.
Did you ever see the layered crosshair picture?
Yeah, well, don't you understand that when they made photocopies, it melted in behind the microphone, behind the walkie-talkie cue? Don't you know that? And I'm speaking like a dumb Chicago, like street hood. Don't you know that?
Oh
okay. God. The biggest, I'm sorry, is anybody going to argue this to me? The most important event in human history since the birth or life of Jesus is man going to the moon.
If you went.
Do you know where the original videotapes and telemetry tapes, which would prove everything that went on going to the moon, the most valuable recorded item in the history of the planet Earth, was put in a warehouse and put it with 100,000 other tapes, and they erased them for satellite data. This is honest. This is NASA. 7 years ago. I'm not making fun of the guy. It's not his fault. This committee must conclude that the most important tapes, recorded information in human history, that's it. I mean, has been erased. Give me, even if Nick had the wah, 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 the game show loser soundbite buzzer, we'd be playing it right now. Wait a minute. The blueprints for the Apollo capsules. Now, don't go on the internet and see schematics. Schematics are just drawings telling you what blueprints tells you the millimeters, centimeters, inches, the material, the blah, 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 blah. They're gone. They can't find the freaking blueprints of the most historic event in human history.
They're gone.
And you're calling me and Cueball an asshole?
Forgot where I put them.
I forgot where I put them. Jesus Christ being crucified, the virgin birth of Mary. Let's get in our Israeli and Muslim. The prophet Muhammad going up to heaven, the birth of Buddha and Confucius, Noah's Ark. But the most historic thing in 2,500 years, we can't find the blueprints. Let me tell you something. If Cuba and I go out on a town and we do all kinds of really bad things, before our wives wake up, we're if we had the power, we'd cancel the GPS data to where we went, the bars and everything, and the strip clubs, and we tear up receipts of the champagne we bought because we telling our wives we're not drinking. That's what you do when you cover something up. I don't know
where it is.
I don't know where they are.
What's the loss?
I mean, are you speechless as me? I mean, honest to God.
Oh my God.
Now I know the government's stupid. Half of 9/11, the morning of 9/11, that was the height of government just leaving one plane in the Washington airspace with no missiles on it. I don't know.
That's another show.
Yeah. Okay, so blueprints gone, telemetry data gone, video gone. Let's talk about Stanley Kubrick. Oh, this is where my partner, we're gonna have to strap him to the chair. So Stanley Kubrick, who did Space Odyssey, 2001 Space Odyssey, perfected front screen projection. You know, the special effects of a space capsule looking very real in space. And Cueball thinks that, as many others do, that The Shining, made by Stanley Kubrick, has many instances that show that Kubrick was involved in some way, maybe not faking the moon landing, but faking the propaganda part of the Apollo missions. Does that sound good? Am I not in trouble anymore okay. So yeah. Cueball, go. Perfect. What do you have with the Shining movie that points to Stanley Kubrick somehow involved in the Apollo mission?
Well, Stanley Kubrick was a guy who spoke in coded messages, not unlike Leonardo da Vinci.
Right.
A lot of things encoded in different movies for different reasons. Now, if you remember, The Shining, released 11 years after the landing on the moon.
Correct.
The child actor Danny Lloyd, who played Danny Torrance, is seen wearing a knitted jumper when he first goes to room 223 or 237. He's in that jumper, and on the front of that jumper is an Apollo 11 rocket. Now, they could have put anything on that jumper if they wanted to, a kangaroo, an ostrich.
And Q, is it true that Stanley Kubrick, like many other directors, wouldn't let anything in a scene that doesn't have significance? I mean, the color of the light, the books in the background on the bookshelf, is that true?
Yes. And actually, if you look at The Shining, it feels like he tried to confess his role in the moon landing in The Shining with that. Because he was definitely signed to a lifetime non-disclosure agreement. We know how that works. You can die really, really easy in an accident if you don't. But the role in the moon landing, the carpets up to Jack Nicholson's crazy ramps, the carpet was an exact replica of the lunar launching pad.
Identical
replica.
And how about the boxes of the big cans of Tang in the background?
What the astronauts took to the moon, Tang and space food sticks.
And Q, do you know about the room 237 that you could tell our listeners?
Well, itself is an examination of a different interpretation in The Shining. The reality is, the 213. I'm gonna let you cover that because
Okay, so in the book, the room number is 219. In the movie, Kubrick specifically changes it to room 237. Do you know how far it is? The moon is from the Earth. 237,000 miles.
Exactly.
Now, why change that from the book? I mean, who cares? 219, 237. He changed it to 237.
He was trying to tell people in his own way that if you're smart enough, just like Da Vinci, if you're smart enough, Da Vinci said in my paintings, to decode them, you'll find out that there's already been alien visitors by looking at his paintings. You will also find out from looking at Stanley Kubrick's movie, The Shining, there are so many parallels to things that had to do with the moon landing. He's basically telling everybody, look, if you're a smart guy and you pay attention to this stuff, I'm going to tell you that I'm the guy that directed this. Because I 2001 A Space Odyssey, I perfected it.
Right.
And boom, I did it for NASA. My opinion.
So, I mean, folks, do we need to go further? I mean, come on. I'm not saying, look, there's laser reflectors on the moon that if you point a laser up there on that reflector, it goes back. China sent up lunar ships that went around the moon. We've seen the tracks of the lunar cars from NASA, flags, the landing pad sites. So something did go up there. Something drove that around. So let's get our theories. I mean, my theory. Go ahead, Q. Go ahead.
In the James Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever, James Bond was trying to get away from the killer, and he escaped in a lunar rover.
Right.
2 years after the landing. Just coincidence again.
In the lunar rover, something with the tires, they couldn't deflate to get into the thing. So how did they get it on the side of the spaceship? I mean,
Yeah.
It is freaking freaky. It's I think this. Here's what I think. I think that we spend all this money. We go up there. The video is like shit. Is for shit. The production quality sucks like it did in the first landing. We've got to shoot some additional. This is done in movies all the time and in TV. We've got to shoot some additional propaganda footage to kind of, make it look nice. Vince McMahon, why is he the king? He's got one of the best looking wrestling shows ever produced. And I just don't think you could have kept getting the fun. And as you see the Apollo missions increase, you see the production. I hate to say it. You see the production value increase. It's more sharp. I think that so number one, propaganda. Let's get a second set of video telemetry tapes or a second set of videotapes for propaganda. And number two, what everyone heard on the security channel, Neil Armstrong said, "Oh my God, they're huge. They're here. They're on the edge of the crater." And how many whistleblowers have come forward to say, yeah, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw 5 spaceships hovering on the edge of a huge crater watching the moon landing. I've heard Buzz Aldrin talk about the moon landing, the lunar module landing itself. Very descriptive, 85-year-old guy, not stepping on his words. This guy landed something with Neil. I know bullshit, but these other ridiculous facts that we've brought up, I can't explain it away. So go ahead.
Really, all we're doing is giving the people the information that we have discovered because we're TruthBusters, and you guys can make up your own mind. It's a proven fact that over 20% of the population thinks there was some kind of fakery involved in it. Maybe you don't. We're not trying to take it away from anybody. Perhaps we did land on the moon. Perhaps we didn't. But all you've heard for 60, 50 years is we landed on the moon in certain pictures. So we're just giving you more evidence. That's what TruthBusters does. We uncover the truth. And look, it's not their truth. It's the truth. So do with it what you might. You're entitled to your opinion. We just know that there's some very strange
kinky. You in the car business, we call it kinky. Yeah, the deal went down, but something was kinky about the way the salesman acted. Yeah, that's what it's. That's the terminology.
Oh,
kinky, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, something ain't right with that. Something ain't right with that.
Your wedding. It's not like you tape over your bar mitzvah. I mean, this is the most important event in human history, taped over.
And everybody knows when we talk about 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick directed that. That was shot in 1968, a year before we went to the moon.
Exactly.
Photography, it's very convincing. Now, maybe in fact we went and the pictures were terrible, and we thought that the people deserved beautiful pictures. So we made a set and we shot beautiful pictures to go down in history. But there's no excuse for taping over the original master tapes. There's no excuse for losing the blueprints. So when you combine all this stuff, see, cops, I always say this, police, preachers, they don't believe, clergy, cops, don't believe in coincidence.
No, never.
There's, and when you put 4, 5, 6 coincidences together, then it becomes circumstantial evidence, which people have been tried and sent to prison for life on purely circumstantial evidence.
Correct.
Happens all the time. So, this
you
is
talk about other stuff like you said. Yeah, the Gus Grissom telling that this, the Apollo missions are ridiculous. That he hung a lemon in the window, saying that the Apollo capsule was a lemon. Dies in a fire 5 days later. On the launch pad.
Well, that's the thing. What a lot of people don't know is that was the original moon crew that were testing.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they were the original crew that was supposed to go. And what happened was there was a test of the space capsule. And now, up until that point, Gus Grissom was the guy who didn't want to play ball. He held an impromptu, unscheduled, and unauthorized press conference the day before the flight simulator burst into flames.
Can you imagine?
He takes a lemon from his wife's house, puts it on a coat hanger, hangs it on the outside of the capsule, letting everybody know it's a lemon. You know what happens in the car business? It's a lemon, right? Falls apart, has problems with it, it's no good. Take it back. They even have a lemon law. So he was telling everybody this is a lemon. Now, him and 2 other astronauts go in just for a test in the capsule, which is running about a 95% pure oxygen saturation for the air. And suddenly there's a spark. And don't listen to the video of it because it's horrendous, because you hear grown men screaming as they burst into flames. It's horrible. You don't want to listen to it. Trust me. Don't do morbid curiosity and listen to it, because I can tell you, I can hear it in my sleep. I've listened to it. And so you don't want to listen to it. But, you know, Gus Grissom was the guy who was going to say, look, we faked the moon landing. It's bullshit. And
he said 2 things. He's like, we can't even talk to each other on the launch pad to the control center. How are you going to talk to me on 250,000 miles away? And the reason why the capsule burned up is they didn't put silicone or a wax on one of the connectors, so there was an open spark. I'm not saying that that they killed him on purpose. I'm saying that his prediction that this is a lemon was true.
Yeah,
all these problems.
I'm not saying they killed him, but the fire was kind of convenient. Just saying.
Sure the hell was. It sure the hell was. And, you know, how about, again, so remember, YouTube, puppets on a string, the hammer noise when it shouldn't be a noise. Look at that. Look at the visor, the picture in the visor. Also look at, oh God, what was the 3 Neil Armstrong, Buzz, and Collins at the press conference. They looked like their mothers had just died.
Oh my God.
Now there's only 2 explanations. One, they realize how insignificant humans are when it's compared to space. But I think they would have realized that being astronauts. And number 2 is that, no, or three reasons. Number 2, they saw aliens or alien craft. And number 3 is they just make the moon landing.
Shame.
You know, I'm coming back from the moon. I'm going, woo, and, you know, baby, man, I mean, it was awesome. These guys look at the video. They look, they want to kill their mom. And the same astronauts who Bart Seibel, who's a little bit of a goof, he's one of the leading moon landing conspiracy guys, would go around to these astronauts. If you walked on the moon, put your hand on the Bible, swear to the Bible. No astronauts are willing to do that. If Jon Stewart and Cueball Carmichael walked on the moon, I would laugh. I would put my hand on 7 Bibles and be like, yeah, I walked on the moon. Why? Why do you refuse to put your hand on a Bible, no matter how much of a goof you think this guy is, Q?
And what did Buzz Aldrin do to him?
Punched him in the face when he called him a coward.
Yeah, he punched him. Not only would none of them swear on a single Bible, none of them would give him the time of day, and he got punched in the face for his trouble with Buzz. So, you know, I mean, these guys have avoided the press like the plague.
Like the plague.
If you were declared a national hero, and if you've ever seen the pictures of the ticker tape parade they had through New York and Washington, I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of people cheering. When I was a kid, I was 9 years old when the moon landing happened. My parents are watching it with me. And when he put his foot on the moon, my mom and dad screamed and jumped up and down and hollered and hugged each other. And I'm like, I don't know what happened, but it was pretty interesting to see my parents react like this. Yeah. You know, it was just one of those things. It's like when we did the JFK thing. I remember coming into the living room as a child and seeing my grandmother and my mother crying, and I thought my sister was dead or something. And they said John F. Kennedy was shot and killed today, and I'm like, who's that? So, you know, I was young, but I figured out who it was. So, you know, these moments of marvel are ingrained in my history, but now you've declared these men national icons and heroes. Now, the pressure is on them to never come out and say the truth anyway. because number one, they've enjoyed the fruits of their labor because they all became very rich because of what they did, and well, they should have if they went to the moon. But it leaves you to believe that there's so much, just so much circumstantial evidence saying that possibly we didn't, or possibly we encountered aliens and they weren't debriefed and allowed to talk about it.
Correct.
So, I'm not saying we went or we didn't go. I'm saying there's an awful lot of evidence that goes one way or the other. And it was just too good a filming for 1960.
Neil Armstrong's one of his 5 speeches of his entire life after the landing in the White House. Eventually America will find the way to uncover the layers of truth. I mean, what? I mean, enough.
You know what?
Enough. Everyone that laughs at us, enough.
We're going to wrap it up for the night, guys. We're going to leave you hanging. Next week's going to be a surprise subject. I think you're going to like it. That or you're going to hate it worse than you already do. Anyway, look, for Jon Stewart, Nick London, the greatest producer, my wonderful co-host, and Cueball Carmichael, we're going to sign off for TruthBusters for this week. Join us again next Thursday night at 8 o'clock for another exciting topic that's going to leave you understanding not their truth, but the truth. Good night, folks.